You could see in Spain it was monotonous watching them in the World Cup. They go side to side. They at least this time switched play field. And then when they did get the ball to the end line, they put it in the penalty area. And they had players in there, and they caused a whole lot of problems. I think all those things add together with a player who actually is a little bit more mobile. And they were hugely impressive.
Pivarich, the left back, got absolutely mulled. He got wasted. And it wasn't all his fault because he had Perisic in front of him. But what was so impressive about Spain, Dan, was the positional sense. I talked about it yesterday when the game was on. We can talk about the Premier League, La Liga, the best teams, the biggest teams, Real Madrid and Barca. What is not up for debate, I think, in my opinion, it's not up for debate, is the technical superiority of Spanish players ahead of British players. I don't want to say English players, British players. The Spanish, to a man, are superior in the technical aspects of the game, both with their control, the distribution, and the mindset. And you saw it yesterday from Asensio. Everybody knows Asensio's got a great left foot and he's a talented individual. But watching him during the game, what impressed me more than his goals and his passing was his positional play. And his positional play allowed Carvajal to get forward. His positional play allowed other players to rotate. And I just think at 22, for somebody to be as sharp as that at this level is pretty special.
Sid? Well, and it's not just him. I mean, you look through the players who played yesterday, 5 of them were 23 or under. Saul is 23. You had Rodri in there as well. You had Gaia. And so there's a very young side. I think as well that Brian's right to suggest that this was a shift slightly in style. They were prepared to, in particular, to play those diagonal balls that changed the direction of play, in particular to go long. Yesterday it was 34 long balls, where the average in Russia was just under, I think it was 23. Maybe 22. There was a determination to accelerate everything. I think it's embodied by the shift in forward. I think it's embodied by the role of Asensio last night, and I think it's in particular embodied by Saul, a player who can do all of those technical things, who can pass the ball brilliantly, but also has that ability to arrive in the penalty area at just the right time. Maybe almost, kind of David Platt-esque, or like a Brian Robson used to be. The Spanish always just refer to it as llegada, that ability to arrive. It's all about that, and I think that breaks the play up, and that makes Spain a much more aggressive side with the ball. And so you see a team that still dominates possession, but it feels like there's much more purpose about them now.
It was a switchy play. Sorry, Dan. It was the switchy play that, to go back to the points Brian and Sid are talking about. Spain did have that little tiki-taka possession at times, and it did go sideways, but whereas before, and they've had success with it, but teams started to just pack that midfield, and they kept trying to knock the door down with a great goal, the great pass. What they did for me yesterday in that Croatia game is they went the sideways pass, and then when the time was right, they switched the play. Usually to the fullback, or Asensio was coming infield, or it might have been the other side. But they switched it quickly, and then that opened up the game. That's something I think that they'd stopped doing, and I think it's something under Enrique we're going to see a lot more of. They're going to try and drag teams in, and they're going to try and hit that killer pass across the pitch.
Welcome into extra time. Come on, Craig. What are you looking at?
I thought you were going to do that thing.
No, I don't need to do that thing today.
Freaking lied to me.
Oh, I didn't lie to you. I never mentioned the thing.
Sorry, I do apologise. No, I don't really.
Right, both Craig and Shaka predicted that Watford would be relegated. You both got it wrong.
I was just copying him.
Shaka, you got it wrong.
Why? Is it over? Is it?
Well, so do you think they're going to get relegated?
Well, they
wait to see.
Probably not, but they did falter badly over the last couple of seasons, I believe, after very good starts.
Right.
So,
who's going to get relegated now?
Who did I pick?
I can't remember. Cardiff, definitely. You would have had
Cardiff.
Yeah.
Watford. Oh, I picked Crystal Palace.
Crystal Palace.
Okay. That was kind of dumb. Hey.
West Ham.
No.
Newcastle.
No.
Next question.
I was right staying on my phone in the first place.
Why is Craig anti-US? Are you anti-US, Craig? There's a smiley, crying emoji.
I do it just to wind people up.
There's a little halo above his head.
Does it work?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
It's called a job. Take it on the chin.
It's a joke? You say?
Job.
A job.
Job. I mean, why? I mean, yeah. After getting knocked out of the Hex, the easiest qualification segment in the history of the world. I don't know why I would have been critical. Brian disagrees. I'm not even looking up. You don't know what it's like, Burley. Go back to wherever it is you came.
They don't cut the grass.
Looking at a US goalie there.
That was the slowest reaction.
What?
The paper was all the way down to the back there.
Yeah, but I've been watching you all the years, isn't I?
Yeah, fair enough.
Shaka, throughout your career, name the 2 centre-backs that played the best in front of you.
Ooh. Darren Peacock. Stuart Pearce.
Ah.
He's ignorance. You don't know who Darren Peacock is, do
What's
you?
it? He used to play for Chelsea. Lives in Canada now, doesn't he?
Wrong Peacock. It's a different Peacock.
Oh, he's got Gavin Peacock.
I was right the first time.
Oh.
Darren Peacock
Damning
was
not knowing footballers that were
centre half.
when I
You
was
thought you
born.
had it too. You were like, I got him. Oh, wait.
Centre half for
Lives in
QPR.
Canada now.
Lives in Canada now. Yeah.
I think Darren lives in Portugal.
I knew
Moving
he
on.
didn't- I knew he didn't know who
Well,
Darren
not
Peacock
Canada.
was.
Canada's a
I
long
knew he
way.
didn't know.
Because Gavin must have played with you.
Don't even try and dig yourself. Yes is the answer.
I know my peacocks.
Don't even try. You don't know who I sussed it straight away. I thought he hasn't got a Scooby-Doo who Darren Peacock is. Not a clue.
Producer, I don't seem to have any questions for Sid. Yeah, I just hear Sid. Did you want me to ask him anything?
Oh, yeah, that's the old diversion tactic there.
Oh, do you know the difference between the two
I'm just here to laugh at everyone else.
That's what I'm here
That's my job, Sid.
That's my job.
Which peacock are you asking me about?
Did you know about Darren and Gavin?
Yes.
All right, condescending.
Yes, I didn't know that either of them were in Canada. I will admit that. I didn't know that either were
There
in
you are.
Canada.
See, I brought
Was
some.
Yeah, Gavin's a Gavin
that's what
Peacock's
Dad brings.
he's a pastor, I believe. He's a
Yeah.
man of the church now. He was always. All right, we'll just move on from that.
He
was always very religious.
Like, wait a minute. Where is Craig going with this?
No, but he's full. I think he's got his own. What do you do? I don't know. He practices his own
He's a man of the church.
He's a pastor. He's a man of the church.
Listen, there's not many footballers.
He's still going.
Actually, I played with one. Do you remember Taribo West?
Yeah.
He had a church in Milan.
Wow.
And he came on loan to Derby County from Milan. I don't know if it was Inter-Racy, I can't remember. It was all very forgetful. And he used to go home after the game on a Saturday to preach to his
Congregation.
people.
Marvin Andrews has a church in Scotland now.
Was he?
Yeah.
Wow.
With the Rangers.
The other thing is, Taribo used to have to be back for the game on the Tuesday if we had a game on the Tuesday, and quite often
I didn't make it.
Jim would be looking for him, Jim Smith, and he was nowhere to be seen.
Sid, any footballers you know who are now pastors, vicars, popes?
Yeah, the best one was. Do you remember the Argentinian goalkeeper who played against England in the penalty shootout, Carlos Roa? Carlos Roa decided that the world was going to end at the start of the new millennium, so disappeared to prepare for it. And then, of course, it didn't happen.
But at least he was prepared.
Well, that's good.
At least he was ready. He was ready.
So
He
explain
was
this to me, Sid.
Y2K compliant, as I believe the phrase goes.
Right, okay, so where do you go to prepare for the world ending? Is it like in a forest?
He
or I don't know.
basically took himself out of circulation and went into this kind of sort of remote retreat, just him and his family, and said, right, we're going to prepare for the end of the world.
What did he have?
The end of the world didn't show up, which
And-
I thought was pretty inconsiderate of it, really.
As a esteemed journalist, do you know how much food rations he had with him or anything like that? I don't know.
When does he do the steam?
I don't know that, I'm afraid. No. I'm esteemed. I am quite often an esteemed journalist, yeah.
You've just lost your esteemed.
Esteemed Guardian journalist. He's going to be in Miami covering the Spanish
Sid,
game.
will you go to Miami
Do you think
for
I
the
can
game?
get on that plane?
Will you go to Miami for that game?
I very much doubt it. I mean, do you think the league will offer me the chance to go there obviously on the understanding that I then come back again? I don't know what the chances are.
I don't know.
Said I've got to tell you now. I would pay. I would pay for a ticket for you.
Wow.
To go and cover that game, just for the sheer hypocrisy. The sheer hypocrisy.
I'm looking forward to it. I tell you, if my hypocrisy
comes at your cost. I'm a hypocrite all the way. I'm looking forward to
Don't
this.
take your mate with you. I'm not paying for him. That guy that you brought to the restaurant in Wales.
He might well be going to. You know.
Right. Final
He'll
one.
be getting a freebie.
Have you guys enrolled in ESPN Fantasy Football?
Not yet.
Any strategy you want to share? No, it's our brand new game which launches this week. You can go over to the website and play ESPN Fantasy Soccer. It's a little different to what maybe you're used to in the sense that it's just picking a team of, I can't remember how many players, 8 players, isn't it?
Right. So what's wrong with the other 3?
Because this is the way in which it was designed.
Is that designed?
I think it was just it's simpler
So
and it's
different. So there's got right. Not 11 players.
no
8.
8 because I think it's less defenders, more attacking, more excitement.
You do have a clue,
Players.
dear. You do have a clue. this is like Gavin Peacock all over again.
Hey, Darren,
No. So shut up, Bobby.
did you go to the meeting about it?
When was
So
it?
you should know more about it than me. I was away
When was it, Shaq?
a couple of weeks ago.
A couple of weeks ago.
So 8 players,
8 players.
yeah, and you've got a budget, and it's all about trying to work.
You've got to pick like 3 tier 1 players,
Yeah.
3 tier 2 players, 2 tier 3, and the players move tiers.
So we're all
and
going to be
that.
doing a league, so make sure you get involved. I'm going to go now. That is it. ESPN FC returns
players.
tomorrow. We'll be looking ahead to Liverpool against Tottenham Hotspur in the Premier League.
It's been 2 pretty decent outings against Brazil and Mexico for a young and changing U.S. men's national team. We've got Brian McBride here to tell us who's impressed him the most. In order, let's start off with number 3, Brian.
Sure. Number 3, bit of a surprise to me. Julian Green, very much on the outskirts looking in, called back into the national team. And he's showed a lot of composure and poise. Now, on top of that, in a situation where yesterday we needed a player that you could play to the ball to the feet, get out of tight spaces, and transition, I thought he did an excellent job.
What about number 2?
Number 2, a player that we're looking for because U.S., of course, is known for goalkeepers. And Zach Stefan has done extremely well, being thrown in the deep end. Certainly, probably wants that decision to coming out of the penalty area yesterday, but you look at a goalkeeper, you want a goalkeeper that makes saves, that's good in the air and commanding in the box, and distributes the ball well, and he's done all of that.
Shaka Hislop would applaud you for showing the goalkeepers
Got
some
it.
love, but there can only be one, so who's impressed you the most and why?
I think it's pretty obvious. And it's not just because he scored the goal yesterday. I think he's been very good throughout. His career as a youth national team player has been exceptional, and now he's made this transition to MLS, been completely one of the better players of Red Bulls, but also in the national team he's become a leader. He covers tons of ground. He has a great understanding of the game. And he's a great connector in between the defense to the forward, and he'll make the penalty area.
All right, Tyler Adams, go ahead and brush your shoulders off because you have impressed Brian McBride enough to be his number 1. All right, thanks so much, Brian. Always a pleasure to continue tracking the U.S. men's national team, to keep it here at ESPN FC. After the USA's 1-0 win over Mexico in what we should call a friendly, but we know it's anything but when it comes to those 2 teams. We have Brian McBride in to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly from that game. Let's start off,
Right.
Brian, with the good. Who impressed you the most?
Well, I think you got to look at the whole camp, and I look at the whole camp, and it actually translates right into this last game against Mexico. Tyler Adams, of course, the goal scorer, but more importantly, someone who seemed very comfortable on the ball, without the ball. His commitment to close down space is there, but he understands the game. And when I say that, I don't mean just having a soccer brain. He knows when he needs to cover for a player. He knows when he needs to fill a space to open up a passing lane. And that showed yesterday. I'd add in, I think, Zach Stefan has had a great camp. And in the sense of, sure, he made a bad decision coming out and sliding in on getting a handball outside the penalty area, whether or not he actually used his hand. Those situations, I think, you learn the more you get into. But if you talk about what you want from your goalkeeper, making saves, being positionally correct, distributing the ball really well, he did all of those. He ticked all those boxes. And lastly, the biggest surprise for me has been Julian Green. Somebody who really looked on the outskirts for a long time after playing in a World Cup coming up basically as a teenager. you get to see there's some quality there. And the quality is that he's very comfortable in tight spaces. He came in, for for Weston McKennie, when he wasn't necessarily ready, but his first touch was excellent. He understood that we needed somebody to hold the ball up, to also not even hold the ball up, but take the ball side on and move it forward. And so I'd say those three players did very well during the game.
All right, well, now that was good. Let's get to the ugly because, like I said, it was a friendly, but we know it is anything but when it comes to those teams. We saw that Matt Miazga was involved in a little spat, and after the game, Angel Saldivar has some very interesting words for Miazga and the USA. He says, quote, "They tried to play a dirty game, and we honestly don't think that's how you should play." That's very rich coming from Mexico. Brian, did you see anything in this game that was unwarranted that probably you weren't used to when you would play against Mexico?
I would say that it was a pretty tame game in the sense that until the point where Matt Miazga sort of was insinuating that.
That's expected. Is he
Listen,
just sour grapes now?
No, that's mind games. That's not dirty. I didn't see any tackles that were dirty. Believe me, I've played in games versus Mexico where my feet were stepped on. There was, you get close and they'd give you a little ding to the private area. Those I would call are dirty. This was just more of a mental game, and they lost it. And for both sides, I think it's an opportunity to understand, listen, there's going to be times when you may be wound up, but you got to hold your composure. The U.S. did a good job of that. Mexico did not, and basically it probably cost them the game.
All right, thanks so much to Brian McBride. Definitely useful games for the young U.S. men's national team against Brazil and now against their arch rivals, Mexico.